Hey everyone, thanks for joining me today. You get another solo episode with me. I am doing a special episode for Mother's Day. So by the time this comes live, Mother's Day was yesterday here in the United States. And so I wanted to do an episode honoring moms, and I'm going to do another one honoring dads in June when we have Father's Day. But um, I want to talk about my experience as a mom, and what I've learned about myself as a person, and then also just being in the world of therapy and coaching, working with couples and working with individuals. I work with a lot of moms, and being able to really look at things from the perspective of the individual, the mom, and then kind of thinking about the different kinds of relationships that people have with their moms, but then also the mom in the context of the family, of the marriage, all of that. There's so much to it. And so I just figured I would kind of give some time to that today. And like I said, I want to give the same exact dedication to guys on Father's Day because I feel like I don't know. Neither one is more important than the other. And if you think one is more important, then I will challenge you on that because I disagree. I think both mom and dad play such vital roles in a child's development. And if one or both of those relationships are not strong for a child, or if there is any kind of distress or conflict, then it impacts the child in its own way. They're very unique, and the relationship that you have with your parent is very specific to you and to your parent, and the way that it affects you is very specific to you and your parent. So let's talk about moms. So I am a mother to one child. I have an 11-year-old son. I was 27 when I had our son Tristan, and I wanted to be a mom. I mean, I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a mom. I was just in my DNA, right? Being a caretaker, having children, that was so important to me. And I was 22 when my husband Richard and I got married, and I knew I had goals. I wanted to finish school. So I started grad school a couple of months after we got married. I knew I wanted to be a therapist, and it was a long road. So I had to get my education. It took about 2.5 years to do my master's. And I had to then get licensed, which in the state of Texas was a minimum of 18 months. So by the time I finished doing all of that, I actually found out that I was pregnant on the day that my license got posted, that I like officially became a fully licensed, independently licensed therapist. So it was a really great day. And it was pregnancy was interesting. It did not go as smoothly as I had hoped. I just had some, it was fine. I think overall it was great. No major issues, but I personally had experienced, I had a history of, I wouldn't say full-blown eating disorder, but I had disordered eating, right? So I don't know that I would have fit criteria for a diagnosis, but I had a very unhealthy relationship with food, and body image issues existed. So getting pregnant and having to, what comes naturally with the pregnancy is you gain weight. That was very difficult for me emotionally. I struggled. I was very rigid about what I ate. I knew that I wasn't supposed to eat, like you're only supposed to gain this much weight. And so I became a little bit obsessive to a point that wasn't healthy. But my husband and my doctor were very aware and kept having to talk to me. So that was a little difficult for me. But then after I had Tristan, the real struggle began. So I had nannied for years. I knew what I was doing. I was really excited and I was really good at it. But emotionally speaking, things like I had mild postpartum depression. It was not extreme at all, but the adjustment was difficult for me emotionally, more difficult than I had expected. We know for you don't know what you're going to get. So this is what you get. And so the first few months of his life were difficult for me emotionally. I was just a hot mess. Um, and just things that I had wanted to do didn't go that way. I couldn't nurse him. And I actually had gotten sick in the hospital during, in the time that I'd given labor to him. And so or given birth to him. And so I was sick for a couple weeks after I had him, and it was just a really hard start. And but I never had any issues with like bonding. Everything was great. It was the opposite. I was just emotionally like over the top. I was really fun to be around, just so you know. And then I had a lot, like my eating issues kicked in big time after I had Tristan. So for the first 2 years of his life, I was not good. Like that's where I would say it became more like where it was more of an official eating disorder. And it was just the restricting and things like that. So long story short, I wasn't great in the head. But I survived. I have very supportive. My husband was amazing, super supportive. He was trying to be as helpful as you can to a very illogical issue. Because as a therapist, I knew what I was doing was wrong. I mean, I knew all the things, right? But the same reason that doctors don't treat themselves, right? Therapists don't treat themselves. So I knew that what I was doing was wrong, but I didn't want to stop it. It was a control thing. It just comes with, if you've ever known anyone or personally experienced anything relating to an eating disorder, then you know it's very logical and it's very difficult to rationalize. So about 2 years after I had him, I don't know, I saw a picture of myself and it like hit me. I was like, oh my God, why do I look like that? I look sick. I was so thin. I was just very unhealthy looking. And I had seen many pictures of myself around that time. I had a baby and we were taking pictures all the time. But something about that day hit me and I was just like, holy cow, I've got to stop. This is not okay. So I don't know, like my brain decided it was exhausted of being so obsessive that I just stopped being as crazy and for myself, right? So when you have a history like that, you never really fully overcome it. Like I will always deal with aspects of that, probably for my entire life, but I've learned how to manage it differently and how to be healthier. But that is part of the story that I'm leading up to. Then one of the most important things to me and to my husband is our marriage. And we knew that we had a certain standard for our marriage that we did not ever want to go or get to a point where we didn't prioritize our marriage. And we had this amazing child and having so much fun with him. Obviously, there were the difficulties that come with a parent. Like it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It still is. But I knew, and him and I both knew, and we got to the point where we were like, we'd wanted more kids initially, but I knew I wanted to wait a few years because I had experienced enough nannying that I was like, I can't do two little ones. But time, over time, we both were like, I think we're good. Like, this is good. We like this. We like, having the one. We can still kind of take care of what we need to take care of. Our relationship can still get attention. Financially, we can achieve some goals. Like, this is good. So we made a decision. I'm skipping a lot of the details because they don't matter. Otherwise, I'll be here forever. But yeah, we got to the decision. We decided we were done. We weren't going to have any more, and it was the best decision. I still have nightmares that I'm pregnant. It's just best for us, and also for me personally. To be honest, I don't know that I would mentally and emotionally survive the pregnancy because of the struggles that I have had and continue to have with eating and body and stuff like that. So, the takeaway personally, like there's the takeaway for our marriage. I think that our relationship would, of course, be fine because we make efforts to nurture, but I don't know that it would be hard. Like we just knew what we wanted for our marriage, and that was just going to be added stress that we didn't want. And we felt good about having one kid. But then on a personal level, I had to recognize that my physical, emotional, and mental health was important. Could I put myself through that again? Absolutely. Was it necessary? No. Would it be good? Probably not. And making that decision was one of the best decisions that I could have made for myself. And there were a lot of opinions around that. Some people who were close to us were very upset by the fact that we chose to only have one child. They felt that that was not fair to Tristan and just the bad choice, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, Rich and I are incredibly good at boundaries and we do what we want to do. No, people don't influence our decisions very easily. So we set our boundaries and we did what we needed to do, and it's been the best decision that we could have made. So, why am I telling you all of this? Being a mom is, and again, keep in mind everything I'm saying to you, I'm gonna give you the same or equivalent chat for dads when it's Father's Day. But we're talking about moms today. So, being a mom is about doing a lot of things for other people all the time, right? If you're not doing the thing, you're thinking about the thing, or you're planning the thing, or you're making sure everyone else is where they need to be, right? That comes for most moms. And keep in mind that there's no one size fits all, right? Moms come in all shapes and sizes. And some, for some moms, parenting comes very naturally. That maternal instinct is very strong and very organic. For other moms, it's not. And, it's not about a right or wrong thing. It just is, right? Some moms have a really hard time being moms. It's not an easy adjustment. It's not an easy lifestyle for anyone. But for someone that does not naturally experience certain maternal instincts as much, or maybe just have high levels of mental health issues or physical health issues or trauma or something like that, that can be a really big um, obstacle to being either the kind of mom you want to be or the kind of mom that is best for your child, maybe the kind of mom your child needs you to be. And that's really hard, right? So, one of the hardest things as a mom is guilt, right? We experience feelings of guilt a lot. And I'm just going to talk to you about my experience because everyone's experience is different. But I know I feel like I live in a constant state of guilt. And I am aware of it, so I work really hard to try to manage it, navigate that and not dwell on it. But at the end of the day, I know that there are certain standards that I've set for myself as a mom, the relationship that I want to cultivate with our child, the way to I want to be I just want to be a kind of mom to him that I intentionally decide to be, right? I want him to see me a certain way. I want me to see him a certain way. I want to see myself a certain way. And obviously, life throws all kinds of things at you all the time. And you're like, well, that didn't work. And I have lots of mom fails. And I have lots of times where I have to really course correct. But at the end of the day, I know how important my job is. I know that I am responsible for myself. I'm responsible for the way that I mom, and I'm responsible for the relationship that I cultivate with my kiddo. And every child is different. Some kids are very, challenging, and there are a lot of issues that come up with trying to parent certain children, whether it's a behavioral issue or developmental issue. Like, you could be the most amazing maternal filled mother in the world, but you could have a child that for one reason or another is difficult to parent, and it really throws you off of any kind of plan, or just, you might read the books and the articles and go to the parenting classes and nothing works, right? And so it's very easy to feel discouraged as a parent. It's very easy to feel guilty because we feel like we should be doing things a certain way. And honestly, being mom is a little extra difficult in a sense because there are a lot of societal expectations of what that means, right? Being mom means having certain responsibilities. Now, whether or not you and your family live in those societal expectations or even abide by them, or oops, I just knocked my thing. I'm so sorry. Here we go. live by them, agree with them, whatever. That's, specific to you. But the world still has an expectation of what kind of person you should be as a mom. And that's hard because I think that also being a mom is tough because women are very critical of each other. I own it. I'm judgmental. It's just who I think it's a human thing. Like anyone who tells me that they're not judgmental, I truly believe is just either delusional or lying or just really thinks that people believe them. Everyone is judgmental. Everyone is critical. You may not go out of your way to criticize your judge by any means, but that doesn't mean that you don't have opinions. And by nature, being opinionated comes with judgment. So when we as women look at each other, it comes with so much complication. It comes with comparing, um, we're wondering if, why is it easier for them? Why is it harder for me? Why is it harder for them? Shouldn't be that hard. Why does it not look like that for me? Why are my kids not like their kids? Why don't my kids treat me the way they treat them? Why, that person's a terrible mom or that person's such a great mom. I could never live up to that. Like, that is such a common thing for women just in our nature. And not every woman is like this, but I would say most women struggle at some point, if not all the time, with worries that people are going to look upon them with judgment for their role as a mom. And I've struggled with that for sure. But, I think um, I think recognizing that that's something that everyone does might help us in the moment and just realize like, okay, well, I'm doing it and I'm feeling like crap about myself, but you know what? That person's probably doing it too. And it might be for a completely different reason, but chances are that person's also insecure. So let's all have grace. But at the end of the day, we're harshest, I think, on ourselves. Those of us who struggle with high expectations of ourselves or standards that we set for ourselves as moms, we are hardest on ourselves because we often just feel like we're not doing enough or we're just not doing it all or why why do I still struggle with this or why can't I just be better at that thing or why am I not more put together or whatever. And so or a lot of the times if our kids are having issues, behavioral, academic, whatever, emotional, we want to fix that. That's part of like or we're mom, but we don't always know what to do. We don't always have the ability to do all the things. And so that can be really hard and can bring a lot of guilt. I know one of the things that I've struggled with the most as far as guilt is time. Feeling like I should be spending all my time with my kid because I love that time. It means a lot to me, but I also am very mindful of the reality that life is fragile and anything at any point can happen. And I would just, it's the guilt of like, what if I don't do enough? What if I don't spend enough time? And so that's something that I've had to work on over the years. But honestly, I don't know that that's a thing that I could say has gotten better. I've just learned to manage it. And I think as he gets older, the way time is spent is different, right? He's 11, he's almost 12. He's not dependent on me for life the way he was when he was younger. He has a lot more independence. He has friends he spends time with. He goes and hangs out with them. They can go walk down to the park or they can go on field trips with that. Like things happen differently. And so I think I've naturally adapted over time, just like we do, right? As you go through different stages, you transition through those stages. And with that comes adjustment of expectations of self, expectations of others, trust of the world, whatever. I still don't trust the world. uh, I don't trust children or adults. I think bad things can happen, but I've had to work on that. I've had to work on not being a neurotic parent. And I think what's helped me also is being in this field, right? So as a therapist, I have worked with kids and adults since 2009 in this capacity. And you see a lot. You see good, you see bad. I've experienced a lot of like a lot of my opinions about parenting have developed as a result of my job because I've worked with a lot of kids who don't have parents that are selfless in that sense. And I'm not saying selfless in that you never take care of yourself and you only do things for your kids. I'm saying selfless in the sense of they don't prioritize their children. They don't take care of their children. They might provide physically, home, food, things like that, but emotionally there is nothing. And that is, I've observed these kids. I've talked to these kids. I've Some of these kids I've known for years and have really walked through this journey with them. And it's heartbreaking that, I mean, honestly, I'll tell you, and you've probably heard me say this before, but I have a lot of opinions about the fact that not everyone should be a parent, and absolutely not everyone should have more than children. One children child. Some people are great at it. Other people can't do it. I know myself. I'd probably be a really good mom to two kids. I wouldn't be a great mom. I know myself. I know the way my anxiety works. I know the way my mind works. I know the way that I struggle with things. And because of that, I know I'm a better mom because I have one kid. And we have to know ourselves when we make these decisions. And some people get to make those decisions, and other people, things happen and they don't get to make those decisions. And so you just do the best that you can. But where I struggle is that when you're not okay and you're not doing well, do you seek support? Because so many of the parents that I work with struggle and struggle and struggle with their role as mom, their expectations of themselves as a mom in the sense of they don't have great parenting strategies, or they're trying everything and it's not working, but they just keep doing the same thing and they don't seek out help or support or resources. And I've had a ton of guests on here who work with parents and who are parenting coaches or therapists that work with parents, but the average person is not seeking out those support. The average person isn't even Googling how to do things better when their kid is having a behavioral issue or when they are struggling emotionally and connecting with their child. That's where I get, honestly, that's where I get judgmental is why are we willing to spend hours on social media or learning how to do a recipe, learning how to do a DIY for a project at home, looking at useless stuff online, but we won't spend the time to figure out how to be better parents. And I would be so freaking crazy if I relied solely on all my nannying history experiences before having Tristan and my experience as a therapist who teaches parenting skills. I do that for a living and I still am always looking stuff up and I'm still always having conversations with friends about like, hey, how do you do this? Oh my gosh, this happened. I'm so frustrated or I'm so sad or I'm so upset with myself. Like talk to my husband all the time about like, hey, how do we handle this thing? We're in a new stage of life where technology has to be monitored differently. Social and relationships need to be navigated differently. We've never done this. I do this with kids all the time in the therapy spectrum, but I've never had my own kid. I've never been emotionally involved in that process before. So you better believe I am constantly learning. And a lot of the time I'm learning from my kid because sometimes I think that my approach is going to be the best one. But when it comes down to it and I really like communicate and interact with my child, I learn that his personality and his needs are going to have to require a different approach than what I've learned or what's worked with some of the other people, kids I've been a therapist to, or even articles I've read in the past. Like my kid needs me to be the kind of mom that meets his needs. Now, there are times where I don't care what you need. These are the rules and you're going to follow them. But it's never with this like I'm a dictator and you will do what I do. No, it's with the relationship. It's with it's through love, it's through understanding, but it's also through structure and boundaries and limits. And I am big on that. And I think one of the hardest things in society today is that there are way too many things for us to have to protect and navigate with our kids or protect our kids from, right? So when I was little, I am 39, right? I'll be 40 this year. We did not have the internet. We did not have access to the world the way that we do now. The world just seemed much smaller, right? And now we're having to see and pay attention to so much more as parents, and we cannot keep up. I don't care who you are and how great you are at supervising your kid. You just cannot know all the things all the time. Your kid's at school, they're interacting with other people, they're hearing different things. There's no way for you to know all the things that are going on with your kid and the way your kid looks at life and thinks and the questions they have in their mind. You have to communicate with your kid and ask questions and nurture a relationship and spend quality time to be able to really get to know your kid. And only then do you really know if your parenting approach is working for your kid. And what works well in this season of life will, it will change as your kid gets older, as your kid goes through another stage of development, as your kid experiences other things academically, socially, emotionally, physically, all the things. You have to constantly be pivoting. And I think one of the most amazing tools that we can really have as parents is our ability to be creative, right? If you're a parent, then you know that your kid will sometimes ask you the most random question that you're like, um, I don't know how to explain that to you right now. Like, I'm not prepared for that. I don't know what to do. And we've just got to get creative. Sometimes you are amazing and you whip out an incredible on the fly answer. And other times you're like, I'm going to need to think about that. And I'm going to have to get back to you on that. Great question. I will let you know when I can answer that in a good way, but like, it's a deer in a headlights thing on a very constant basis, not just with them asking us questions, but with us just having to navigate situations, right? And I think that, again, we would be lying to ourselves if we thought that we didn't need to try constantly to be better at this responsibility. It is a job. It is the most important job in your life. It needs to be. Being a parent, if you chose to have children, then you chose to take a responsibility for a human that literally cannot function without you in the first stages of their lives. And then you are responsible for helping that child grow and be nurtured and adapt to this world. Now, you cannot control everything, and your kid is going to do stuff whether you want them to or not, but you are in it for the long ride. You are in it fully. And if you right now are listening to this and you're like, yeah, I'm not in it fully, well, let's figure that out. Why? What's going on? What do you struggle with? What are the hardest parts for you about being a mom? Why do you feel like it's not going well? What can we do about it? Do you need to seek support? Do you need to have more resources and, whether it's peer support, family support, professional support, all the things. And then let's pivot a little bit even in this discussion. Let's look about mom in the context of a marriage or a relationship, right? If you are married and you have a significant other, a spouse who is doing this parenting thing with you, then there are certain things that come with that. There might be expectations that your spouse has of you about the kind of mom you should be or the kinds of things you should do in your role as mom. If you are a single parent, a single mom, then there are a different set of expectations of what your role as mom should be and what your responsibilities as mom should be. And those are hard because sometimes we don't remember signing up for that. We didn't agree that by becoming parents, becoming mom, that was going to be what we had to do. So that is a whole conversation in and of itself. So in the context of a co-parenting situation in the same household, you do have to figure out if you're satisfied with the role that you play as far as what's expected of you. Is this a role that you did sign up for in the way that it's playing out? Did you have conversations with your spouse about what your responsibilities were going to be, how your time with the kids was going to look, what your, like, are you the primary caregiver or not? All those things. And if you didn't have conversations about that and this thing just kind of evolved into what it is now, but you're not really satisfied with it, or there are aspects of it that you're frustrated about, maybe resentful about, this is a really good time to take notice of that, to really decide, is there room for growth? Do we need to start having some conversations that might be uncomfortable and might be hard, but if we learn how to do them the right way, they're not so bad. And if that's where you are, then I really want you to think about that, because being mom is hard. And it doesn't get easier. It just changes, I think, like depending on the kid that you have. Like I know I can say for sure parenting is easier now in the sense that my kid is 11. He's more independent and I don't have to be on 24/7 with him anymore. He is not in danger if I walk out of the room like he was when he was a toddler. So it's easier in that sense, but it's harder in the sense that we're having to deal with things that we never did when he was little, like opinions, uh, bad choices, social situations with friends, girlfriends, social media. Like that crap is hard, guys. Like it is so freaking hard because I don't know if I'm doing it right. What if I make a decision that is so bad that I absolutely screw this kid up, right? So it's hard, but it's going to continue to be hard and it'll continue to, like, aspects of it will continue to get easier and aspects of it will continue to get hard. It's just a fluid situation. So if we're not in touch with kind of how we feel about this role and how we're doing it, then we should be actively working on improving it. We should be working on making sure we're doing it in a way that works for us. If it's not working for us, is there room for change, or are you pretty stuck in your situation? And then you just have to figure out how to have a better attitude about it. Do you need more support? Do you need therapy? Do you need something, right? What can you change and what is out of your control? But just like with everything else, are we making an active and intentional role or playing an active and intentional role in being the kind of mom we want to be? Or are we just too busy? Is life too fast paced and we don't make time for that? Well, it's very likely that it's that, but we are responsible for making time because the cost is huge, right? If we don't do this right, we burn out and our kids suffer. If we don't parent in a way, if we don't mom in a way that is aligned with the mom we want to be, or we don't nurture the relationship the way we want to with our kids, time is going to run out. We're going to get to a point where it's too late to fix it, or we wish we really would have. We might have regrets, right? So now, talking to dads about the mom in your life. Oof, this probably needs its own conversation. And we'll talk about the version of this on the dads too, but how do you as dad treat the mom, right? What is your expectation of mom? How do you view this partner of yours that is mom? Do you view her role as separate from yours? Do you view her role as more important than yours, less important than yours? Do you think she has more responsibility than you do? Do you think that she should be doing things that she's not doing, or do you think that she should do things that you don't have to do? What is your perception of the difference between your role and her role? And how do you behave based on that? Are you part of the reason that the conversations are hard to have? Do you need to initiate, hey, how are you doing? Are you okay? Do you need me to be a different kind of dad or a different kind of spouse to support you as mom or as wife? That is something that we should be doing, right? So if I'm going to encourage you as mom to look at yourself and try to nurture a conversation with your spouse about needing a different kind of balance, then I'm going to tell you as dad to also keep an eye out on your spouse and make sure she's okay with the things that she has on her plate and how she's doing them. Because at the end of the day, you're a team. I don't care what that team, what version of that team you want to refer to, what sport you want to look at. Find one that makes sense and then try to view your life through that lens, right? If you're looking at it as a basketball team or a tennis team or soccer team, whatever it is that works for you, how does that team work together? And then try to ask yourself, do we do that? Are we a good team, or are we really just not meshing well? Do we not work as a team? Are we on the same team, but we are really not behaving like it? We don't practice together. We don't try to nurture each other and support each other in a way like, I want to make sure you get the ball so you can take a shot, or I want to make sure to set you up for a success or whatever. Like, are you just trying to be that player on the team that is only looking out for him or herself? And the other person suffers, who cares? Well, just so you know, if your teammate suffers, you suffer because you're a team, right? Just common sense. So you need to decide if you're being a good teammate and if you are supporting your team or if you are just supporting yourself. And then your kids become this like extended part of your team, right? You are in charge, you lead it, and they need to learn from you. They need to learn. They're your, they're the Padawans, Star Wars reference, right? They're your apprentices. Figure out if you're like, make sure you're leading by example, that you're being a good team leader and that you are showing your kids, this is how I treat my spouse. This is how I respect my spouse. This is how I treat your mom or your dad or whatever. And so if you can do that, if you can be a good partner and a good team leader, and it's a co-leading type thing, right? You and your spouse are both in the lead together. If you can do that well, then everyone wins. It doesn't mean it's easy. Teams still lose and fail, and they have to come back to the drawing board and figure out a new strategy. But that's just part of it. We recognize that when we are in a team, but for some reason, when it comes to family, marriage, parenting, when it's hard, we just get stuck and we wallow and we just get mad at each other and we yell at each other and we don't take the steps to get better. We don't learn new strategies. We don't try new plays. We just beat our heads against the same wall and then whine and complain about the fact that it's not going well. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up, but I want to kind of summarize by reminding you that there will be a dad version of this in on Father's Day. But for all of the moms, we play a vital role. And we are required by our own standard, we need to require of ourselves to do all the things that it takes to be a good mom. And that involves taking care of ourselves. That is a huge topic that if I was to start talking about that, we'd probably have a whole another hour. So self-care for a parent, whether you're a mom or dad, obviously those can be different individually speaking, but they're vital. And I know I'm okay with it. I'm not great at it. I have some days where I'm better than others, but you know, the role is different. It's different. It's hard. You're not free of responsibility ever. And again, I could tell you so many stories about what it means to be mom, and what it means to be the holder of all the things and the schedule and the plans and the responsibilities and all the things, right? But you know that. So I wanted to just touch on some of the important parts of being a mom, being a good mom, taking care of ourselves. And just remembering that no one's perfect. You are not perfect. Keep in mind that our own experiences as a mom are very likely heavily shaped by our experiences as a daughter, right? The way that you experienced your mom probably plays a role in how you are a mom. I know it is for me. My mom is very close to me. We have a very close relationship, is and was an amazing mom. Always put her kids first. Good wife, good mom, all around in every possible way. And that set a high bar, right? Like, think back to very specific examples in my childhood. Mom was always there, always available, always emotionally supportive, physically supportive, did everything she needed to do. There was no shortcoming. And that's hard, right? For a kid to be now a mom and be like, I want to do that. But life is different now, right? Like the way that the world looks is different. And so me trying to navigate that probably is part of why I want to do all the things and be all the things, because I know how important it was to me to have that mom. And I want my kid to have that. I've also had to learn that I have a son and he needs something different than what I needed as a little girl. So I've had to learn a lot from my husband about how to be a mom, because he's had to teach me about what our son needs as a boy, who looks at life differently than I do or did, whose emotional capacity looks very different than mine. Because in many ways, Tristan is similar to me, and in many ways, he's very different from me. And that difference, I had to learn from my husband. So, sometimes there's a pride thing there where it's like, well, I'm mom, I know how to do this. Well, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I need dad to tell me that's not going to work with this kid. And it sucks to hear that because I kind of want to be awesome all the time. But then I've just learned that I can still be awesome. He's my teammate. It's okay if he has to correct a parenting thing for me or encourage me to try it differently or comfort me because I sucked at momming today and then just help me pick up and do it again. Like that's part of the team. I'm very lucky to have a very good teammate, but we've worked really hard to be good teammates to each other. It doesn't happen without effort, right? So, keep in mind that whatever stage you're in your relationship, maybe with your own mom, see how that plays into you. If you've experienced loss or grief related to your mom, whether you just don't have a relationship or maybe she passed away, that might impact the way that you mom. And honestly, that might just impact this day for you. The way that you got through Mother's Day might be very difficult because of that. So just take care of yourself. Just know that it's okay to feel confusing feelings. And it's just part of life. It's part of experiencing all the joys and the hardships of life. So, with that being said, I will now officially wrap up. I hope you had a wonderful Mother's Day. And if you are not a mom and maybe you are the dad, I hope that you truly, um, you know, valued and treasured the mom in your life, whether it's your wife, or your mom or just other extended family that are moms. So happy Mother's Day to everyone that celebrated. And I will see you next time. All right, bye.